Good evening, everybody. It's Lexi again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alexis Alston. I'm on the investment team at Untitled Chapter. We are an investment firm based in Cincinnati, Ohio, that specializes in investing in underrepresented founders outside of Silicon Valley. We are seed and Series A investors, and we specialize in health tech, artificial intelligence, machine learning, as well as all things direct to consumer. So that's us. Tonight, we're going to keep it super casual, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that are just now bubbling up to the surface in terms of diversity in VC. So for those of you who don't know, the reason why we're doing this on Twitch is because we normally host a pitch competition here called Twitch Pitch, where we highlight 12 of the greatest founders who are great pitchers across the United States, who all just happen to be very diverse faces. And so we're doing this here because it's casual. You can ask questions in the chat below if you'd like, or you can listen to some of the thoughts and solutions that we have for funds that want to diversify their pipeline and just become more inclusive in general for their practices at their firm. So we'll get right into it. A little bit of background might be helpful here. I started my career in private equity, did that for quite a bit, then did some growth equity, and now I am an investor at a much earlier stage. So with that, I've been on the sourcing, diligence, and check writing side from everything from really, really early stage deals to much larger deals. As a team, our team is comprised of both founders and funders and operators. So we've seen a little bit of everything across the startup ecosystem. And naturally, our team is incredibly diverse. Our GPs are both very strong Black people. There is a Black man and a Black woman that lead our team. We are founded by a very strong Black woman, Candace Matthews-Brackeen, alongside her husband, Brian Brackeen. The rest of our team are marketing, operations, copywriting. That entire team is also incredibly diverse. And so we get a lot of questions as to how did that happen and how other funds can replicate that. And the same goes for our deals. Every deal that we've done to date is led by an underrepresented CEO in some way. For us, that's people of color, people who don't identify as men, members of the queer community, as well as people with disabilities. And so this is really how we've done it. The issue is less than 10% of venture capital goes to people that look even relatively like me, and less than 3% of venture capitalists look like me. And there are a few, I think, fairly easy ways to fix this. And I know I've had conversations with a few of you kind of sidecar about this, but this is overall, how we think about it and how we think a lot of other funds should think about it. The root of the pipeline problem is that companies, venture funds are not going out and proactively sourcing the talent and the deal flow in order to make them competitive in terms of having diverse funders and founders on their teams. And so what do I mean by that? If you look at most investment funds, and I won't name names today, but you'll see that most of them are teams comprised of a very homogenous sea of people. They all look a very certain way. There's Patagonia vests, Allbirds, the whole lot. And it's not because those are the most talented people or the best people for the investment roles. So how do we hire more diversity at our funds? It's simple. It starts at the intern level. If you are a fund that has internships, both for pre and post MBA programs, you need to make sure that those internship programs and opportunities are being shown to everyone. It's not good enough just to post on your Twitter profile. It's not good enough just to send your job posting to your friends. You have to make your postings apparent to everyone. And when you do that, the best of the best will rise to the top, and you will see a very diverse applicant pool. If you need some assistance with that, there are great organizations like HBCU VC that not only provide training to college students and recent college grads from diverse backgrounds on how to get into venture capital, but they also provide continual mentorship, job fairs, digitally and in person, and other career resources to help them become more competitive. The same goes with going directly to the universities. Many venture funds say things like, well, we only hire from tier 1 schools. I'm here to tell you right now, there are great talent at tier 1 schools. I myself have an Ivy League degree at the university that I went to, and most of the other tier 1 universities. There are organizations on campus that are Black and business leaders, Latinx business leaders, the National Society of Black Engineers, the list goes on. And these are highly skilled, highly qualified, 4.0 GPA having Ivy League graduates and students who really just need to see the job opportunities that exist on an internship level. And I see someone says a Black person from tier 1 schools, VC skip us. And you know what? A lot of them skipped me too. They really did. Because unfortunately, and we'll get to this point in a second, your connections and your network are a huge part of it for some ungodly reason. So you really have to go out and source more diversely. There are conferences, there are events where you will see great tier 1 Black and brown talent that have all the credentials that you look for, iBankers, ex-PE people, ex-consultants, and those people are there and they're looking for internships or full-time jobs, but you have to be at those events and those networks to see them. And I promise you, they are just as, or maybe even more qualified than your existing network of the friends that you go golfing with every week. The other thing is, for full-time employees, the same is said here. You have to go out and proactively hire. It's not good enough just to post it on social media. You have to be proactive. And for those of you who don't do your own hiring, you say, oh, we hire a recruiting firm. Consider saying to them on the list of things you're looking for in talent, hey, we want to make sure that you look at these organizations, these trade organizations and ecosystems so we can have a more diverse pool of talent. You could also say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time that we think about not only Harvard and Stanford and Yale, maybe we approach the HBCUs ourselves. There are so many great institutions that are pumping out such great talent. Go directly to them. Maybe if you say, hey, we want ex-Googlers, there are subgroups within the Google community, within the Microsoft community, within a lot of these large tech companies that are dedicated to nurturing and fostering the best Black and brown talent that they have internally. Approach those groups. Does it seem like more work? It's 1 second more work, but what you're going to do is have a more diverse pool of applicants and therefore a much better pool of applicants to choose from as you make your hires. One question that I get a lot is, hey, well, we have a scouting program where we allow anyone and everyone to send us deals. And guess what? That's not good enough. What you have to do is make sure that you have diversity in your check writing positions, because people who write checks make the decisions, and in your investment team decisions. There need to be Black and brown voices on your investment team that are there, that could even call out microaggressions that may happen in real time, right? I was once in a position where there was a deal that was being brought across the table, and the CEO of the company was being described as moody and erratic, and the CEO was a woman. And I was the only person on the team who really could step up to the plate and say, hey, that's language that we don't use when we describe our male founders. So why is that language that we find acceptable when describing our female ones? This is why it's important to have diverse voices on your investment committee. They have to be in positions where they can speak up and allow you to make adjustments and think critically about the way that you're even looking at the existing deals in your pipeline. And then thirdly, I mentioned this earlier, but they have to be partner track roles. This is the problem with these unpaid scouting programs. Most of these programs and ecosystems are not for partner tracks. The people are scouts for 3, 6, 12 months, and then they're forgotten, and they're not given the opportunity to rise up in the ranks in the venture fund. The average Black investor is only an investor for up to 5 years. And why is that? It's because we aren't given the space to hit those partner track roles that our other counterparts have the ability to do so. It's unfortunate, but we have to change it. We have to be impactful and we have to be intentional in the way that we do this. And so as I go through this, as other questions or comments pop in, thanks Amplify Impact. Like I'm so grateful that I'm at the table, but it's also really important to me that I can make sure that I bring other people to the table with me. It's not just good enough that there are a handful of us in this industry. We almost know all of each other. We have to make sure that we're actively helping funds to continue to source more diverse voices at these roles. And then the bigger question is, okay, well, why is it super important that we have more diverse investors? Why does it matter? Well, because naturally, if you are in an investment role, you are in a role where your network is leveraged and you have the opportunity to source deals. When you source deals, you source from your network. Your firm is only as diverse as your network. So if my firm is comprised of 5 people who love to go to the country club every day after work in the sauna and golf, then you're only going to be sourcing deals that exist in that network. But imagine if you had a fund where maybe one person did that and someone else played tennis after work, and maybe someone else volunteered at their local YMCA after work, and maybe someone else was, the chairman of the National Black Engineers Organization. You would see so many more deals, and you would see that diverse deal flow. One thing as a Black investor that I didn't even know wasn't a common thing was the way that I source is just different. I read different publications. So it's really important that your investors that are in positions to find new deals, from the analyst to the partner level, that we can find deals in our networks. And so our networks have to be reflective of the diversity that we want to see. I think it's pretty simple, but it's also something that I've done for my entire life, so maybe it's not. The other caveat I get a lot about my rants about hiring is, well, we're an investment fund of 100 people and 30 people on our team are people of color. So we must be perfect. But are those executive assistants, accountants, social media strategists, and other roles that aren't directly related to a company's ability to get funding from you? And for most people, the answer is yes. You look at the photos of everyone on the website and they can feel so proud about their diversity, but are those decision makers at your firm? And if the answer is no, you still have a lot of work to do. And it's okay, because we're all in this together and we're all here to help empower everyone grow better and stronger. But we have more work to do, really. So in terms of the job front, I wanted to highlight quickly, there is a great organization called OFRA. It is a executive search team that specializes in placing Black and brown talent in roles, particularly in finance. So if you're looking for a new headhunter for your firm, for your next few hires, they're a great team that I would strongly recommend. Also, in terms of platform, if you don't like to hire people directly to do that, but you'd rather post, and I always recommend that people post their jobs for everyone to see. In addition to your normal channels like LinkedIn, Medium, and the like, there's also a great platform called Jockwell, which is designed to empower people of color to find their dream jobs in tech. And the venture community, of course, is a part of that. They have great programs where they'll send people directly to you, and it's really a great program. There are some paid features, so keep in mind that there are a few different tiers of how they work, but they're fantastic for that. I'm reading my notes, making sure I don't forget any of the things that I wanted to talk about. So it's called OFRA, I believe it's OFFE or OFFRE. I'll have to check back into that and let you know. Amplify Impact, that's the name. It's not Oprah, not Oprah Winfrey, but it's OFFRE. And it's a fantastic firm. And so the other thing that we can do in terms of how we make these hiring decisions. For a lot of us at our firms, the people on our investment team and at higher roles take board seats and maybe deeper operating roles. And so that's the other reason why this is so important, is as you become more diverse as a firm and you and you look to increasing diversity in your portfolio, think about who are the potential operators that can take board seats in your portfolio companies or executive roles in your portfolio companies, and the diversity that can be reflected in that. So you may have a portfolio that's incredibly homogenous. That's okay. We can make improvements to that. So if you hear from one of your companies, hey, we're looking for a new COO, or we're looking for a new whatever role, maybe consider one of the lovely and diverse people that you have on your board or your investment team or in one of your partner roles to take that seat. These are little things that happen all the time behind closed doors, but once we put some intentionality behind it, it becomes a lot more impactful. And Amplify, the other firm that I mentioned is Jockwell, which is Jopwell. And after this, I have kind of a little step-by-step guide. If people want me to send it out to them, I can send people an email with some of these details in it in a more compact format. And the other, I'll definitely do that. Thank you. And the other part of that is holding your companies to the same standard in your portfolio. So as you make investment decisions, make it a part of your diligence. Just ask, notice how diverse is the company? Are you investing into a company with 200 employees, and out of those 200 employees, 2 of them are people of color? Maybe just question why that is. I'm not saying it's a terrible deal and you shouldn't do the deal, but it's something you should be thinking about and actively having discussions with your portfolio about. How can they implement some of these strategies as well as a company to help them become more successful in their diversity? One company that I always highlight is a company that's in the portfolio of my previous fund called Recursion Pharmaceuticals. And they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in Utah. But it's always been incredibly important to them that they continue to hire the best talent in the world. And so what they do is when they find the best scientists, they will fly those scientists from wherever they are to join their team. And because they're solely looking for the best of the best, their company is naturally incredibly diverse. And it's not about quotas. It's not about any of those archaic systems. It's really about how do we cast our net wide enough where we are getting the best of the best to the table. That's how we see it anyway. So if, let's say, you're at a firm and you say, okay, well, we're not in a position to hire, no one's leaving, does this mean I can't be a part of the solution? The answer is you can absolutely still be part of the solution. And part of that for you is diversifying your sourcing. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I read publications and attend events that I didn't realize until recently many of my white counterparts weren't attending or reading. One example is Black Enterprise magazine. It's fantastic. It's been around for forever. And I equate it to being like Inc. magazine, but for the Black executive community in America. You can read it online. It's readily available. I think you may still be able to get the print version, but save the trees and read it online. And it's an incredible source for hearing what's happening in the CEO world of Black America today. It's great for that. And other digital content that's fantastic is Blavity. Blavity, I would equate to be more of a lifestyle plus tech crunch publication, as it does have more of a focus on the earlier stage founders. So for those of you in the pre-seed, seed, and Series A world, I would recommend Blavity a little bit more to you. But it highlights some great things that Black CEOs are doing and great tech that's coming out of the Black ecosystem across the United States. And outside of publications, in the real world, and I know we're all stuck at home still because coronavirus, but when we're all able to gather again, there are some great events that happen every year where you can see incredibly diverse executives in deal flow that are there, they're fundraising, and they're showing off new products and new launches. So Afrotech, Hands down, if you're looking for Black deal flow in the early stage realm, you have to attend Afrotech. I don't know what the details are for this year with the virus, but normally the event is held every year on the West Coast. Sometimes they have secondary events in Detroit, but it is one of the largest consortiums in the United States for Black tech executives and people looking to get into Black tech. Also, it's where you can meet a lot of other Black investors. There's also the Black in Tech team. They do conferences all across the country year round. Each one has a little different theme and vibe, but you could probably find one near a city where you live. And once again, it highlights the best tech and some of the best CEOs in the communities. Black Tech Week, similar thing, great conferences, great access to talent and deal flow. And then other things that happen with our team, like I said, if you're watching this on Twitch, we have a pitch competition and we show it here and it's year round and we highlight some of the best deals and executives that are showcasing their companies right now. We also have demo days. We run an accelerator in addition to our fund. That accelerator has demo days. There are other great accelerators and programs that also love to showcase their companies. And in terms of other funds like myself that have great diverse deal flow, there's us, Lightship Capital, there's Harlem Capital, there's Backstage Capital, which also has an accelerator component. Backstage Capital also has investor weeks where they highlight some of the best companies in their portfolio and allow any investor to book meetings with them. No warm intro necessary. There's Precursor Ventures, and the list really goes on and on from there. I promise you, I'm not the only investor who really cares about finding diverse deal flow. There are a lot of us out there. We exist, and we have great companies to showcase who may be raising funds now or in the future. One thing I will say about access to investors and deals, it's really important to our fund, and we strongly recommend to every fund that you remove the warm intro requirement. And I know people are rolling their eyes right now as they're seeing this, but you have to remove the warm intro. Why? Because the network effect, because homophily. Because if you don't have access to the network already, you're never going to get that warm intro to that fund. It doesn't mean that your company isn't exactly what that firm is looking for. It doesn't mean that you're any less qualified as a founder. It just means you're not in that network. And once again, the same analogy I always use, if I don't golf at the Sandra Day Country Club on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. with cigars, I may never have access to that network. And you may never have access to what could potentially be your next great deal. So remove it. Remove the warm intro. I can't think of a single reason why the warm intro would be useful. All it does is tell lazy investors they don't have to do diligence. They don't have to go seek out new deals. That's all it does. I think we all should get rid of it. On that same vein, be accessible. I know we get bothered by a lot of deals that aren't a fit for us. Sometimes we get bothered by deals that'll never be a fit for anybody, but be accessible. For us at Lightship, right on our website, the front page, we have an application tab. Anyone and everyone can submit their deck to us and they actually get read. I read every single application that gets submitted on the website. Does it take up a lot of time? Yes. But if I'm actually interested in seeing the best of the best, I have to look at everything. And it doesn't matter if it's attached to a referral or not. You have to give everyone the same chance. Same thing with cold outreach. I know you're rolling your eyes again. A lot of us don't like cold emails coming into our inbox or our DMs or on LinkedIn. Hear them out. And if you don't want to hear them out, create an application process or a deck drop process where they can just submit their things quickly and quietly, and then you'll evaluate on your own with your team if it's a good fit for you. I know it feels like more work, but I promise you it's worth it. I promise you. One other publication I forgot to mention that is actively involved in this space and helps other VCs source deals because they have this great, I guess I would call it webinar where they highlight some great deals every month, is The Plug. It's a newspaper slash journalism website led by Cheryl Dorsey, and she highlights some great funds and founders on the platform that are generally led by Black and Brown voices. So those are really the biggest points that I wanted to get across, and I'm happy to take questions in the chat. I had a bunch of friends and colleagues send me questions and comments beforehand, and I'm going to go through some of those for people who couldn't be here today. So I'll get started with that. Feel free to dump in some questions in the chat, or I see some of you are texting me, or continue to text me, or send me messages on LinkedIn. So first things first, if you put up a black tile on Blackout Tuesday, or if you put up a post of solidarity anytime within the past month or two, and you didn't take any actual action outside of that, you're in no way part of the solution. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, but that is in no way helpful. Saying that you stand in solidarity with the Black and Brown community at this time means nothing if you are not positioning yourself to either hire more diversely or write checks into more diverse firms or funds. The second point is a lot of funds are starting what they're calling mentor hours or office hours. Book a time on my Calendly, and I'm happy to give free time to any Black or Brown founders who need it. That's also not the solution. The Black community, the Black venture community in particular, we don't need more mentors. We don't need more people to look at our deck. We don't need more people to give us advice on our business. Once again, what these funders and founders are looking for is checks. Either you're going to become an investor in the company or being put in a position to be in their pipeline to receive an investment or not. And that's really it. If that's not what we're doing, it's not helpful. And I know that for a lot of you, it made you feel really good and fuzzy that you were contributing to our ecosystem, but that doesn't solve our issue. We don't have an issue of, not having enough mentors. It's funding. It's getting enough funding so that these companies can grow and thrive and become the next insert unicorn here, right? The other thing, some of you have asked me about parity pledge-esque initiatives. And so for those of you who don't know what that is, initiatives where you say, okay, well, for every 10 people that we interview, we're going to ensure that one of them is Black. Once again, I'm sorry, but that does not solve the issue. We have to intentionally go out and cast our net as wide as possible. And I promise you, you will see the most diverse candidates, and the best candidates will naturally emerge to the top. Saying that you're committing to interviewing one candidate out of a bunch, that's really just glorified tokenism. And that candidate generally isn't getting to the end, to that final interview, to that offer letter. You're checking off a box, you're sleeping well at night, but you're not actually being a part of the solution with those initiatives. I'm sorry. And the same goes for those of you who had your investment team meeting a couple of weeks ago and said, we have to invest in a Black founder. And so you're looking for that one Black founder. Also not the solution at all, not at all. Once again, that goes into the realm of tokenism. If you're going to be the fund that has one Black founder and magically that founder becomes the face of all of your promo materials for the next 3 to 6 weeks, not the solution. We have to become intentional about these things and make them permanent parts of our processes and structures at our firms. It's not about doing it because it's trendy or because it's a flash in the pan. We have to be intentional about it. We have to be intentional about it in perpetuity, really. The same goes for those of us, who went to Ivy League schools or were the only Black person at our firms. What happens? You're always on all the pictures. You're on every pamphlet. And so that level of tokenism just shows that you're trying to kind of avoid the actual elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that you're not actually being intentional about these things. Let's see, we talked about scout programs, but I'll just mention it again because I mentioned it really early on in this. These unpaid scout programs, or even the paid ones, they aren't putting the students and young adults in those positions in partner track roles. So there's a huge difference between being a scout and being, an analyst or an associate or a principal at a firm. And you're not being put on the same track to become a partner. If you're not being put on that same track, what's really the point, honestly? It doesn't solve the issue. And so those are the I think most of the questions that I had, I covered. I really want to just kind of bring this back full circle and remind everyone, the reason why we're doing this is because the best talent isn't all white. The best companies aren't all white. You have to really, really be intentional about your hiring, your sourcing, and the makeups of your boards, your companies, and your C-suites. Because when you're intentional about sourcing in those areas, you will naturally see more diversity. And guess what? More diversity in funds and in teams perform better. I don't have all of the sources with me right now, but I promise you there are a ton of sources that suggest that these teams just perform better. It's not a charity case. It's not about feeling bad about what's going on in America right now. It's really about just getting the best performance you can have out of your firm. And so you have to be diverse. That's really it. That's what I wanted to say today. I'm glad that everyone could be here to listen. For those of you that I've spoken to individually about this, I'm happy to continue the conversation offline. For those of you that I haven't spoken to about this and you want to grab time on my calendar, feel free to email me. My email is alexis@lightship.capital. And I know it takes up a lot of my time, but I really am happy to talk to anyone and everyone about this. Whether you are a founder who's looking to become more intentional, or just want to talk about funding, or if you're a fund, or if you are a headhunter or an ecosystem builder and you want to figure out how you can be more intentional about this. And there are a bunch of other things we can do too. So I'm happy to talk more to people about it offline. So Sergio, how can Black and brown founders position their companies to be more attractive for investors now aggressively seeking diverse startups? Great question. This is a conversation we've had with our portfolio for quite a bit now. Really, for you, it's one, continue to build the best company you can build, first and foremost. And two, it's finding who are the funds that are actually opening up their doors for the first time to inbound deal flow from non-networked people, and really going after them in an aggressive way. Whether you can network into the funds, that's always great because they love warm intros, or try sending the messages on LinkedIn, try Twitter, try any DMs of theirs you can find. And really try to get the attention of, I always suggest, get the attention of the associates and the principals, because they're generally the people who are doing sourcing in these roles. So figure out who are the investors in your lane in terms of stage, industry, and geography. See who in that demographic are trying to be intentional about this, and send them a message. That's how you get the conversation started. All right, thank you everybody, and thank you again. Special shout out to Vanessa in the chat. She leads, I'm gonna say your title wrong, but she leads ecosystem development at 500 startups, and they're doing some really, really interesting work on this front in terms of ecosystem development, and she's fantastic. in general. And thank you everybody for joining. Once again, my email is alexis@lightship.capital. If you have any questions or want to talk about this more, I have a ton of meetings on my calendar about it, and I'm happy to continue to have them. And one last thing. I'm very happy to talk about this issue. It's something I will make time for. That is very important to me. But please do not assume that every Black or brown person in VC wants to discuss this issue. Not everyone wants to, and guess what? That's okay. So bring your questions to me. Leave the other people alone if they don't want to be bothered with it. And that's it. Thank you again, Vanessa. Thank you, everybody. And have a good night or afternoon, West Coast people. Bye.